My, ain't that a fine specimen. Oh, hey viewers, welcome back to the King Kong Review series. As we continue the theme of these lost productions, today we're going to take a look at a 1931 production from the mind of Willis O'Brian, which in many ways is the prototype to King Kong. So let's take a look at the Lost World sequel, simply known as Creation. On a yacht south of the equator waters, we meet a ruthless tycoon named Thornton Armitage and his family, whose daughter is wed to an arrogant Billy Zane-esque character named Hallett. Along the trip is paleontologist Steve, who is teaching Thornton's son, Billy, about dinosaurs. During the voyage, Steve becomes attracted to Thornton's daughter, Elaine, and they both start to fall in love, but all are disrupted by a large typhoon that threatens the yacht and begins to sink. Evacuating to a nearby submarine, the group then finds themselves in a prehistoric land filled with dinosaurs, prehistoric beasts, and exploding volcanoes. Steve decides, since he's the dinosaur expert, to lead the group through survival, but Hallett, who is a trigger-happy hunter, is jealous of Steve. Upon leaving the group, he hunts down a baby Triceratops and meets his demise by the hand of an angry bull mother. After encountering many reptilian creatures of this lost world, the group must make contact with the outside world before the prehistoric wonder around them is lost to the deadly forces of nature. All I can say is that this one was one of the greatest productions that should have been. Well, yes, if this project went through, we would have never have had the Kong we know today, but this film would have been a fantastic addition to the dino genre of movies. The characters are interesting, the story flows at a nice pace, and the creature scenes would have been some great highlights. So what's the history of this production? Well, this production was from the imagination of the great Willis O'Brian, who, like Cooper, lived many adventures. In fact, some have said that he was the crown creator of stop-motion animation. After a freak accident sculpting boxers and bumping a camera, O'Brian came up with the idea to film clay models in separate frames and create a new form of animation. Being probably one of the first dinosaur fanboys, he created one of his first films, The Dinosaur and the Missing Link, which to the surprise of Thomas Edison, yes, that Thomas Edison, bought the film and published it. After making several other animated films for Edison, he was hired by film director Harry O. Hoyt to create the dinosaur effects for the first film adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, which went on to become a huge success. Afterwards, Harry Hoyt asked O'Brian to help him make a follow-up dinosaur feature, a sequel of sorts. In doing so, O'Brian and Hoyt created many great scenes using dinosaurs to make the story. They then sold the project to RKO, and pre-production began with O'Brian making a test reel of the scene in which Hallett is killed by the Triceratops. What's great about this unproduced project are the dinosaur scenes. Many of them would have been spectacular on screen. One of which is a scene where a Stegosaurus battles the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex in an ancient golden temple. Dude, that's freaking awesome! But to the main point of all this, a lot of the scenes and creatures would later be used in King Kong as action scenes on Skull Island. Seen in these conceptual pieces are bits that look really similar to Kong, including a scene where a prehistoric rhino called Arsinotherium shakes the crew on a log bridge and into a chasm. This scene was later replaced with Kong, but with a deleted bit of the Arsinotherium on the other side. There was also a scene in Creation with a girl being carried off by a pterodactyl, which would have later happened in Kong's lair. But the main Kong-inspired scene in Creation was a battle between the Stegosaurus and the Tyrannosaurus, which the Stegosaur was replaced by, you guessed it, Kong. With many great scenes with these prehistoric creatures, how the hell did this thing become lost? Well, it's not much for a happy ending. By the time O'Brian and Marcel Delgado created all the dinosaur puppets and filmed the test reel, they had already spent over $100,000, which nowadays is nothing, but back in 1931, and at the bottom of the Great Depression, that was the equivalent of $200 million. And a big budget movie in the 1930s would have cost about $200,000. So to add it up, they already spent half the budget and RKO almost became bankrupt, which put a lot of pressure on O'Brian. But when Merian C. Cooper became the producer at RKO and saw the test footage that O'Brian shot, an idea that was only a mental conception of the giant terror gorilla sparked Cooper's imagination, and he made a deal with the studio and O'Brian. If they pulled the plug on Creation, he could produce, with the help of O'Brian's effects magic, a film that would be far superior. While a bitter blow for the stop-motion animator, he agreed, and they began work on the film, which at the time was titled The Beast, and we'll talk about that next time. By the way, while Kong is considered O'Brian's crowning achievement, many other projects he had planned were unfortunately shelved, one of which was called Gwangi, which some 30 years later, his apprentice Ray Harryhausen would make and call The Valley of Gwangi, which is a fantastic film on its own right. Another lost project that O'Brian pitched was for Paramount called War Eagles, which would have been an amazing epic, featuring dinosaurs, giant eagle riders, and would have climaxed in New York with an amazing air battle between the Eagle Riders and the Nazi Air Force. Holy shit! That would have been amazing! Sadly, it was also cancelled due to the expense of the special effects and the fact that the studio didn't really have much faith in O'Brian, and it's a real shame. But for the past few years now, since the release of the Clash of the Titans remake, there have been rumors of turning War Eagles into a big-budget epic, and let me tell you, I'm all for it.
Just take all my money! Oh, not this soon! Not this soon! Ah!
But to sum it all up, Creation and the legacy Willis O'Brian left us is an inspiration for many filmmakers to follow. With the amount of time, effort, story, and imagination put into them, it would have been cool to see these lost projects brought into the modern age of filmmaking. And I think these projects would be great, if given the chance. I'd give them a 9 out of 10. In the words of the great John Hammond,
creation is an act of sheer will. Next time, it'll be flawless.
So that's my thoughts on Creation and the lost projects of Willis O'Brian. So like I said, next time we'll be taking a look at another prototype to King Kong, a first draft if you will, from the mind of Edgar Wallace, next time... we'll be hunting down the beast.